You heard me.
You heard me.
Welcome to You Heard Me the First Time podcast. My name is Minnie.
I'm Nikki Nicole,
And Lizzie.
and welcome back to another episode.
I can't
Yes,
even know. I don't even want to say it. Can't do it. I can't do it this time. It's
Too heavy right now.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
too much going on in this world.
yeah. Unfortunately, this episode is not going to be like our regular episodes. We are wanting to dedicate this to the children and teachers that unfortunately lost their lives to a mass shooting this week. Another one literally after experiencing one in Buffalo, New York, where Black people were killed there. Here we go again with another mass shooting in 10 days.
Yeah.
So I know everybody's emotion is everywhere, but let's just speak the facts, right? There was a mass shooter that entered an elementary school on this happened on Thursday or
I think
Thursday
it was
or Friday.
Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was in the school. He killed 19 students. Well, kids. He killed 19 kids and two teachers. And now the facts are coming out this week, and it just makes the situation more sickening because I just feel like there was so many factors that can have been eliminated in order to either reduce how many kids and people were killed or to prevent it. So let's talk about the facts as they come about. So apparently a teacher left the building. When coming back to the building, she left one of the doors ajar. That's the door that he entered the building in. He entered a classroom, and what they're saying is allegedly that the doors are locked from outside of the classroom, or I'm not sure. I don't want to misspeak, but basically there is mixed notes.
They should be able to open it from inside, but not from outside.
Yes, exactly.
From what I know, especially from my daughter's school, they're able to push the door open, but you can't open it from the outside. Like when I pick her up from school, I can't just pull the door open.
So now they're saying that after an hour, it came to find out that the mass shooter was actually inside the school for 77 minutes, but police were actually on the scene within 10 minutes. So what happened within that hour that prevented you guys to not take charge or take control of the situation? One last thing before I let you guys engage as well, is that we're also finding out there was 19 police officers that were in the hallway while this was taking this was happening. There was also a student that was inside the classroom that made four phone calls during this incident in order to get help. It's just super sad. You guys take it where you think.
My biggest issue is to find out that the police was on scene within 10 minutes. Like to know that is just like, y'all was on scene within 10 minutes. Y'all already knew what the call was about. It's not like y'all was unprepared. Y'all knew. Multiple people called y'all and said, there's a male at the school with a gun. The funeral home called you guys. The teacher called you guys, and multiple other people called. So y'all already knew what was the situation before approaching it, right? And I don't know, I can't really speak on how the police do their job or, whatever. But from seeing things on the news, whenever there's an active shooter, they immediately take charge and try to take charge of the whole situation, right? From what I see on the news or whatever, whenever someone is shooting, they automatically, whatever plan they had, they already put it aside because now there's an active shooter. So now they just have to go in full force. That's what I've always seen on TV. What was the difference? To hear the police officer say something like, one of us could have possibly been shot or whatever, but that's what you're on the front line for. You're on the front
protect
line
and serve.
protect and serve. You knew what you signed up for. Like, I'm not saying like, okay, yeah, get killed or whatever, but when you sign up to be a police officer, you sign up.
Part of the job. Point blank, period.
It's part of the job. So for you to say like, oh, we didn't want to get shot, so we let him stay in there for 70 minutes. Like, what? That's what pisses me off. And you have teachers, I'm so sorry, you have teachers who are not trained into these fields, protecting their students. Is doing what they have to do to protect their students. And they're not trained to do this. They're trained to be teachers and to put their life on the front line to protect their children. But the police who signed up to protect us, telling us, oh no, we didn't want to get shot, so we had to, whatever they said, that's what upset me. That is what upset me.
And one last thing, and Lizzie, you can chime in, because in the United States, we have experienced so much mass shooting. You would think at this time, as a country, we have a plan in place, because we can just say, you know, it's unpredictable, and, you know, we don't know how to, you know, engage in this, and but we had schools mass shooting, we had things that happened to elementary school. At this point, we should, just like 9/11 happened, and now, you know, there's certain measurements that we take in place at the airport in order to prevent, you know, our aircraft getting, you know, taken, or people being able to bring weapons. Certain things should not be in place. God forbid, if there is a mass shooter, an active mass shooter still in the building, there should be measurements put in place around this country in order to take that person down. And what I came to find out is that the shooter actually exited the car, and he actually crashed his car. During the crash, you know, people were looking around to see, okay, what happened? These two men were going to go help him, and he actually shot at them, and, you know, they ran away. So when the first police officer that actually came on scene drove past the shooter, even after getting directions on he was in the parking lot, his car just crashed, you got all that information, and he approached actually a teacher thinking the teacher was the shooter. I just felt like this was a messy job all over.
Yeah. My heart is like completely broken for the families, for the children. Like, it makes no sense that as a parent, you're sending your child to school, and now you're at a point where you don't know if your child is gonna come back. Like, that is fucking, it's unexplainable. And just to piggyback off of what you said, after 9/11 happened, literally airport security went up. It took one incident. So I cannot comprehend why it takes so many mass shootings.
No, speak on it.
Do something
about it. What do you think is the difference?
You want to know the difference? It's because those were their own people. These are not their people. Where the mass shootings are occurring, it's not their people.
That's true.
It happened 9/11. The most famous buildings or whatever that collapsed because of the plane. Those were their people, and it took, like you said, it took nothing. But why? What's going on?
And also, the gun industry is a $1 billion industry. If they make it hard for people to be able to purchase it, that means their revenue goes down. So now the average person and the average citizen just can't go to a gun store or a pawn shop to collect a gun and purchase a gun. Now it's hard. Oh, so now your $1 billion business becomes $1 million business, or even less, because to me, the average Joe should not be walking around with a rifle for what?
Yeah. And it's embedded. Guns are literally embedded in our Constitution. You have the right to bear arms, and
Which you should.
And I'm not against that. You should have a right to protect yourself, but I personally believe that no average everyday American needs any type of war style weapon, period. You do not need an AR-15 to protect your home. What the fuck? What are you going against? It makes no sense to me. You don't need that type of gun to protect your home. So it's completely crazy. And of course it's done by motive, and it's done by, greed and money. But I just, for me, and I also feel like there has to be more to the story, because to sit there and hear children crying, children screaming for 40 fucking minutes, and you don't do nothing. You literally have officers standing outside. To me, it doesn't make
fighting parents.
holding
And you have parents that were literally lined up, ready to go, saying we will go ahead and storm the school, bump the police. We're willing to protect our own children, as anybody should. But the people that signed up to serve and protect us are literally standing and watching somebody do this. It makes no sense. It pisses like this. I don't know what it is, but this one right here has really hit me hard. To sit there and see those kids go through that, it makes no sense.
It was to the point that kids was unrecognizable. They had to do DNA tests in order to figure out if their child was alive or not.
Oh my God.
Go back to say what you said, like the average person should not have a war weapon, right? Why was it so easy for an 18-year-old, not only him, but also the kid that was in Buffalo? He was 18 or 19 as well. Why was it so easy for them to obtain weapons like that? According to his parents and his grandparents, they did not know that he had those weapons. So they did, according to them, allegedly, right? So they did not purchase those weapons for him. Why was it so easy for him to obtain weapons like that? That is the issue. Why is it so easy for 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds to get weapons like that, but it's illegal to drink at that age?
We recently went to Costa Rica, right? And TSA, while we're going to TSA, they want to know, why are you here? Where are you staying? How long are you going to be here? That should be the same protocol that is taking place when somebody is trying to buy a machinery such as this. What are you needing it for? Is this needed for protection? Are you in fear of your life by someone? Those should be the type of question that's being probed. If somebody's going to the store buying an AK-47, what do you need this for?
Are you
18 years old?
Are you a hunter? So let's go look at some hunting guns. Like it's still
exactly.
I completely agree with you on that. If you're buying that type of weapon, then we need to know, what is that weapon being used for? Because that's not a basic pistol. Like that's not a basic Glock or whatever. Like this is something completely different. The damage you could do with that gun is completely uncomparable. And I have heard other politicians say that even though, yes, we have in our Constitution the right to bear arms, I think we could all agree that our ancestors or whatnot, they did not expect for guns to be at this level. They did not expect the magnitude of guns to grow. Their type of guns was completely different. Theirs was probably like, of course, I don't know exactly how it was, but it's you can't compare a gun from 100 to 200 years ago to a gun, an AR-15 now. So because the type of guns have changed, we now need to revisit that law. Nobody is saying to take guns away, but there has to be a lot of regulations, and there's no need for somebody, an average day American, I can't say that enough, to have an AR-15 or some type of military style weapon. What the hell? Who are you fighting? What the hell? It's not needed.
And it's kids that's doing these mass shootings. It's 18-year-olds, it's 19-year-olds, it's 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds. How are they obtaining these weapons? It's not like they're saying like, oh, this 25-year-old done came. How are these 18-year-olds getting these weapons? That's what's mind blowing to me. How are they able to get these weapons? Why is it okay for an 18-year-old to go into a gun store and say, hey, I need, I don't even know the name of these weapons. I need this particular weapon. Here you go. You have the money. That baffles me.
And now there's also reports coming out saying that he has planned this for years. That there's reports that he had went and told the police or made threats prior, and he said, when I graduate, when I turn 18, I'm going to do this. And he did what he said he was going to do. Like it makes no sense. If people
that is why a background check is needed, because he was arrested. It was an investigation and he was arrested because of that, and he was let go. Now, if a background check was done and they saw that, they could have very much prevented that. Like, okay, you know what? He was arrested back in X, Y, and Z because he said he was going to carry out a mass shooting. We're not going to allow him to purchase these guns. But because they don't do background check, that was never reported to wherever he purchased the gun from.
Yeah.
And also, one more thing, the thing also happened with the shooter in Buffalo, New York, where he made threats online. He was actually in police custody. He did a evaluation check and they decided to let him go. but he was also able to go to a gun store. Those should be red flags when they go to purchase guns. Because you're asking for the person's driver's license, they got to get the gun registered underneath their name. There should be some type of red flags that happens in that process.
Like, we get background checks just to work at a job.
Just
to work at a regular 9 to 5.
Say that one more time for the people in the back.
Like, for real, just to work a regular 9 to 5, we have to get a background check, a thorough check. Just to work at Publix, we have to get a background check or whatever. And they're not hiring you if you're an ex-convict. So why is it okay? Why can't we not do background checks for people to purchase a weapon? Why? Why can't we not?
And what's also being alleged is that police officers that had relatives or their own children that attended that school actually entered the school and removed their children from the school.
I heard the same thing as well.
While parents were out, God forbid, could you imagine screams of a child yelling for help? A child calling 911 and the updates that she was giving were, there's still 6 to 8 people still alive. One of her calls was, there's still 6, and y'all still did not enter that. Y'all allowed him, at that point, you guys allowed him to finish because he was able to kill every person in that room besides one child that pretended to be dead. He was able to kill everyone in that room.
And that is a point that I'm trying to, that is what doesn't make sense to me, because obviously they made a decision, and I'm trying to figure out why would they even make that decision where they literally chose, because obviously 40 minutes he's in a classroom with an AR-15, you're expecting everybody in that classroom to be dead. So you fucking idiot sat there and watched you let him sit there for 40 minutes and kill children, and nobody said, let's get somebody in there to stop this. Like,
they said it though.
The blood on those children's hands falls on those people. Like, oh my God, this really pisses me off. I needed to, oh Lord.
But they said it when that police officer was doing his interview, he basically said they'd rather sacrifice those kids than a whole school. In so many words, that's what I interpreted.
Yeah, that's what he said.
So many words, that's what he said.
He said we couldn't risk other people dying, other kids dying.
That's what he said. So they sacrificed those students. Like, it's, you know what? Just to go back to the point, to hear your child scream out for help, and as a parent, I could never imagine that. I can never imagine being outside where my child is being harmed and I cannot do anything. And when you know your child, when your child fall down and you know how they scream and you rush to them to help them, to know that I'm not able to rush to my child and help her and protect her, and to know that the fear that she's feeling in that moment, that bothers me. That bothers me so much, or whatever. Like, as a parent myself, I can just feel for those parents, and it's just like, I remember telling you guys, like, y'all, I'm scared. Like, I'm really terrified. Like, there was an incident at my daughter's school. They sent out a mass email to all the parents. My daughter goes to a charter school, so it's elementary and middle school put together. I told you guys, but it's elementary and middle school put together. And in the middle school section, a student harmed another student with a pencil. And when they did the investigation, that same student who had the pencil, that student had a list of people that they were going to harm by the end of the school year. Now, mind you, middle school kids and elementary school kids, they're in the same facility when it comes to aftercare, right? So it's just like, to hear that student had a list of people that he or she was going to harm. It's just like, that's so close to home. My daughter is right over in the next building. God forbid that student had carry out what they wrote down. God forbid that the school didn't do anything. They just like, oh, it's just a pencil. They end up removing the student or whatever, but they took it serious, and I thank them for that. But it's just to make me realize it can happen anywhere.
It really can.
It can happen at any school.
And honestly, it's crazy now, because the other day, I think it was like yesterday, I went to the grocery store and I literally started feeling anxiety. thinking about how like it was just a grocery store shooting. It was just a school shooting. Like it really started like, okay, let me just help and get my stuff and leave, because you don't feel safe anymore. You never know where the next shooting is going to happen. So for me to feel this level of anxiety, I can only imagine the pressure it puts on these children that every day they have to go to school, and you never know. Like it's crazy. It's sick.
And I know growing up, the talks that we used to have with our mothers was like, never get in a car with a stranger, call me when you make it home, stuff like that. Minnie, as a parent, are you having those conversations with your kids now about, God forbid, if someone was to enter the class or school, what do you do?
I am having these conversations, and it breaks my heart or whatever. When the school year started, I had that conversation, and the teachers have the conversation with them as well or whatever. Like, they have different plans in place. And it's like, just go back to what you said, Nikki. Just thinking about it, like, the most our parents had to worry about is like a teacher calling saying, hey, Minnie was rude today, or Minnie got in a fight today. It's I can't even imagine getting a call saying, we're in a mass shooting and we're trying to protect ourselves. I cannot imagine my daughter texting me saying there's an active shooter, and I'm having these conversations with her, and I'm telling her, Nye, whenever like a situation where there's someone on campus that doesn't belong on campus, or there's someone with a gun or whatever, protect yourself. Go in a hiding spot. Be quiet. Try to stay calm. Just stay quiet until help. And it's like, when you think about it, she's only 9 years old. How am I having this conversation with my 9-year-old not to panic? Because when her mom is not there, do not panic when there's a shooter within her premises. Like, how can a 9-year-old grasp that? And it's so mind-blowing to know that I'm having this conversation with my children. Like, guys, when this happened, this is what you got to do, protect yourself. How can she grasp that? How can a 9-year-old mind grasp something like that?
It's not fair. It's not fair for her to have to process that. It's not fair that these children have to go through that nowadays. And it's crazy. And I guess it's sick. It takes a very sick person to sit there and carry out something like that. Like I said, God bless those children. Those teachers in that classroom were complete heroes. And this is just really sad.
Just to piggy off that, where you said it takes a sick person, one of the conversation is mental illness. Do you believe mental illness is a big part of why there's so many mass shootings that's going on in America?
I think we, of course, you can't say that that's not done with some type of level of mental illness, right? But I think there's also more to that. Like, I don't think it's fair to just sit there and blame. Like, I think you can have mental illness, but I still don't think it's fair to blame that on a mass shooting. So yes, I feel like, of course, they had to have some type of mental illness to do something so heinous, but it's still more to it. Like, something was wrong. Like, that person was that person was a sick person just in general.
And I agree. In order to be able to go into a place and kill anyone, innocent that did nothing to you, but definitely children, to look at. I was driving by a school
sorry. I want to say one thing before I forget too. And then I heard too that when he walked into that classroom, he told those children it's time to die. That we can't just blame that on mental illness.
And that's what I was gonna say.
We can't blame that. Is more than just mental. I don't know what it is, but that's more than mental illness right there.
I do think it takes a level of mental illness that for you to be able to look at children, tell them that they're gonna die, and actually go along with their crime. I think there's something mentally wrong with you, of course. But if you guys are going, not you guys, but I'm talking about like this country and the administration, the people that controls the laws are going to blame it on mental health, then what are you doing for people with mental illness in order for them to commit these crimes? Yeah. You just can't say it's mental illness and put the pen down and that's it. Okay, it's mental illness and then what? Because that can't just be the complete sentence.
Yeah,
So my
it
thing is,
needs
like,
to be it's mental illness, and then now to have a gun, you need a mental evaluation to get a gun. If that's what if that's what they're blaming it on, then it needs to now be required before you purchase a gun. Everybody has to take a mental evaluation.
Multiple, because people
Yeah,
can manipulate it. You can go on one of your good days where you're able to, you know, maneuver through the questions and put on a poker face, because it's always when you talk to the people closest to them, oh, I never knew this was going to happen. They never show any signs of this. There should be multiple, especially if there's been signs or reports that, like, everything that came out about these people, oh, they had letters, they were online, they made threats. I don't know the
this
answer.
whole thing, like, you know, mental illness is a big part of society. Like, you know, even when we was younger, we didn't know nothing about, well, for me, I didn't know nothing about mental illness. Like, I haven't even heard that word until I've gotten to the age, you know, I start, you know, growing up or whatever. And my thing is, it's just like, I don't want people to always excuse people behavior and say, oh, well, you know, they're mentally ill, so it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay, or whatever. Although some people do battle mental illness or whatever, but for them to try to excuse people behavior based on mental illness is what upset me. Like I said, okay, it's mental illness. What are we gonna do? What is the next step to resolve that issue? But don't just excuse the behavior and say, well, the reason why he did what he did is because he's bipolar, or because he's this, or because he's that, or whatever. Well, a bipolar person should not have a gun. Yeah. You know, a mental illness person should not have a gun. Like, stop. It bothers me when people try to excuse these mass shootings on like excuse their behavior, saying like, oh, well, they gotta be mentally ill, and it's just not fair. It's not fair to these people who died because of that. It's just not fair to me.
And I hate to say this, I might get some backlash about this, but I feel like mass shooting is a white man's crime.
It is. I don't want to hear nothing else. Statistically, it's a white man's crime.
And I feel like if it was something that was a Black person's crime, and, you know, of course we have seen Black people do mass shooting, but it's a 1%. You know what I'm saying? Majority of mass shooting that are done, and we don't hear this in other countries, really, right? It's not reported. It's a national issue in America that mass shootings are typically done by white men. Is that a factor why it's a $1 billion business, and it's also a white man's crime that nothing really has been done, because a white man is really not a threat in this country?
Ooh, hello.
You said
no, I completely agree with that. I know when this first happened in our group message, I said, if we want gun reform, every Black person go get a gun. The moment every Black person go get a gun, I bet we'll start seeing, oh, you need a background check. You need mental evaluation. You need this. I promise you, that's what it takes, because the white man would not feel comfortable with us protecting ourselves. They just want to make sure that they're protected by any cost. So they're not gonna lose their protection. And that's why they continue to let this happen. And like I said, the blood of those children is on the hands of those police officers that sat there and watched it happen. And the blood of those children and the teachers is also on the Congress, Biden, all they ass, because at the end of the day, you are in power. I don't care. He's sitting there trying to pass it on to the next person, or everybody just trying to blame the Democrats are blaming the Republicans. Blame all y'all as a group, clique, and posse. All y'all have that blood on y'all hands, because as people that are in power, you allow it to happen. I don't give a fuck who has control of the House, who has control of the Senate. Y'all need to come together and make it happen. The fact that has not happened, the fact that the fact that y'all sit there and allow children to continuously die, the government is at blame also, and we cannot let that monkey off their back too. I need everybody, when it's time to vote, when it's time to make those changes, get your behind up and get into those lines, because it's Biden, it's Kamala, it's everybody and their motherfucking mama that's sitting there and allowing this to happen. And I don't know what person is going to take, I don't know who is going to take, but somebody needs to come up and make a stand on this, because we cannot continue to watch children constantly die. It's not okay. It's not.
Before I forget, I'm sorry to say this, but what it's gonna take is when it started happening to them, when the mass shootings start happening in their kids' school, in their grocery stores, in their, when it start happening within their area, within their premises or whatever, that's when they're gonna be like, oh shit, we need to do something. Until one of, God forbid, but until one of their mother, their grandmother, their child or whatever is affected by this, I just feel like there's no fucking change.
Exactly.
I have no faith in this government. I feel like there's no fucking change or whatever. To know, when I was watching that video of the basketball coach or whatever, to know that 90% of Americans want gun reform and they won't pass the law is just sickening.
And
if we're a Democrat country or whatever, what's the problem?
Because the NRA funds so much people's campaign. It's ridiculous. If that's one thing they do, is they fund a campaign. So all those Republicans, they not moving until the NRA tells us to move. That's their biggest backing. They're getting millions and millions and millions from these people. So the last thing they're gonna do is to then turn around and go against the person that's funding your campaign. And that is where the issue lies. You don't want to go against them. You don't want to change it, because they're literally, quote unquote, your bread and butter. You don't care about what the American people, you're caring more about your campaign. And that's why I say, as American people, just like when George Floyd died, we were like, okay, this is enough. We just need change. We need the same thing to happen here. We need a big wake-up call and tell them that they no longer have a choice. Gun reform has to happen, point blank, period. And it's ridiculous.
And what I already knew this, but the evil that we have in power is on a different level. I know I sent you guys the video that's currently going viral of Ted Cruz at a dinner, and this man walks up to him and tells him, like, we need to do something. And he just waves at the guy. Like, that passion that man has is because 19 kids were killed this week. Dude. Why not show compassion to him? Why would you be sarcastic? It's just a different type of evil that we have in power right now. And you guys are able to police women's bodies. You guys are able to put laws in place about what women cannot do, and it's illegal. And if the doctor who's performed the abortion surgery, you're also going to be sent to jail. You guys are able to do all that. But there is still nothing in place about mass shooting in order to prevent it, decrease it, or anything. And that's a different type of evil that we have in this country.
And for the people who are saying like, oh, but we shouldn't do gun reform, or it's not because of gun reform, or the people who are saying like, oh, if a car is driving into a group of people, should we stop? You sound stupid, okay?
Yeah.
Let's just start there. Let's start with gun reform. Let's just start with gun reform and see how that plays out. Let's start with doing the background checks when it comes to a person getting a gun. Let's just do something, okay? That's the problem that we're having. Nothing is being done. It's not like they're even trying. They're not trying to do anything or whatever.
Let's send their damn condolences.
Exactly. And besides sending their condolences, they talk about it today, and then tomorrow it's done, and a few months later it repeats the same cycle. And let's put something in place. Just make one movement to a change. No matter if it's the mental illness part, or just put one step forward to a change.
And personally, I find it very disrespectful that even Biden and all their behinds, Trump, all Republicans, Democrats as a whole, said, like, you sit there, you send your condolences. how disrespectful is that to the family? Because you're the person that could change it. You get up there and you talk, but you're literally in the room to change those actions. Don't send your condolences. Make a fucking law. That's it. I don't want to hear sorry. I want to hear what is done that this won't happen again to the next person. Like, this is ridiculous. It's disrespect. It's like, okay, yeah, we have your child's blood on our hands, but sorry.
Every president that's been in office experienced a mass shooting while they're in
exactly.
office.
Obama's
fucking president. All of them.
them.
And nothing has never been done. No change had never been put forward. Literally, nothing has not been done besides, like you said, we're sending our condolences. At this point,
you put a flag half down.
Like, fuck your condolences. That's not what we need. These parents do not need condolences or whatever. These, moms, dad, grandparents, they don't need your condolences. They need a fucking change. That's
exactly. Like, it's different if the condolences is coming from, the average day people, but you're literally sending your condolences to something that you could change, and you constantly don't. Like, how disrespectful is that? Like, everybody, please vote. Just vote. That's the main. Let's leave this podcast telling everybody to please vote and know who you're voting in power, because this is ridiculous. And to also look to see the people that you're voting for, who is backing them up, because I'm sure if we do our research, the NRA does not just back up Republicans. Okay, they're funding them. They're funding Democrats too. So we need to sit back and really look to see who's funding these people, and then align our views with that, because that's important.
And we're gonna send our prayers and condolences. This has been another episode, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.